2,500 years ago, a man who may never have existed wrote a book that changed the course of every war that followed. Napoleon read it before invading Europe. Mao memorized it before taking China. The CIA still studies it today. The book is only 13 chapters long. You can read it in an hour. But the people who truly understood it conquered the world. This is the art of war. And today, I'm going to show you why it's the most dangerous book ever written about power. Part 1. Who was Sun Tzu? Before we open this book, we need to understand the man behind it. Or rather, the mystery behind him. Because here's the truth. Nobody tells you. We're not even sure Sun Tzu was real. The earliest record of Sun Tzu comes from Sima Qian, the grand historian of ancient China, writing nearly 300 years after Sun Tzu supposedly lived. According to Sima Qian, Sun Tzu was a military general in the state of Wu around 500 BC. China was fractured into warring kingdoms, each fighting for survival. In that chaos, a man appeared before King Helu of Wu, carrying a manuscript of 13 chapters. The king was skeptical. "I've read your book," he said. "Can you prove it works?" Sun Tzu's answer became one of the most disturbing demonstrations in military history. The king gave Sun Tzu 180 of his palace concubines, women with no military training whatsoever, and said, "Turn them into soldiers." Sun Tzu divided them into two groups, placed the king's two favorite concubines as commanders, and gave a simple order: face right. The women laughed. Sun Tzu said, "If the instructions are unclear, it is the general's fault." He repeated the order. Again, they laughed. Then he said, "If the instructions are clear but not followed, it is the commander's fault." He ordered both of the king's favorites beheaded on the spot. The king screamed, begged him to stop. Sun Tzu replied with the line that defines his entire philosophy: "Once a general has received his orders, there are certain commands from the sovereign that he need not obey." The remaining women never laughed again. They executed every drill in perfect silence. Whether this story is true or not, it tells you everything about the art of war. This is not a book of rules. It's a book about the nature of power itself. And that brings us to the first, and most misunderstood, principle in this book. Part 2. Come back from the battle. Everyone quotes this line. Almost nobody understands it. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Most people hear this and think it means be diplomatic, avoid conflict, find a peaceful solution. That's wrong. Completely wrong. What Sun Tzu actually means is far darker. Destroy your enemy's ability to fight before the battle even begins. Break their alliances, starve their supply lines, spread disinformation, make them doubt their own generals. By the time you meet on the battlefield, if you even need to, they should already be defeated. In their minds, this is not diplomacy. This is psychological annihilation. Let me give you a real example. In 1990, before the Gulf War, American General Norman Schwarzkopf used a technique straight from Chapter 1 of The Art of War. He made Iraq believe the main attack would come from the sea, a massive amphibious landing on the coast of Kuwait. He positioned ships, he ran exercises, he leaked intelligence. Iraq moved its best troops to the coast, built fortifications, waited. The real attack came from the desert, a left hook through the empty western flank that Iraq had completely ignored. The war lasted 100 hours. 2,500 years after Sun Tzu wrote, "All warfare is based on deception." His strategy was still winning wars. But here's what's even more terrifying. Sun Tzu didn't just write about war between armies. He wrote about war between minds. And the next principle I'm about to show you is the one that Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and every intelligence agency uses today. Stay with me. Part 3. Knowing. Sun Tzu's true weapon. Chapter 3 of The Art of War contains the most quoted line in military history. "Know your enemy and know yourself. In 100 battles, you will never be in peril." But Sun Tzu doesn't stop there. He gives you the full spectrum, Know yourself and know your enemy. You will win every time. Know yourself, but not your enemy. You will win half the time. Know neither yourself nor your enemy. You will lose every time. This sounds simple. It's not. Because knowing in Sun Tzu's world doesn't mean intelligence reports. It means understanding the deepest motivations, fears, and weaknesses of your opponent, and being brutally honest about your own. This is why Chapter 13, the final chapter, is about spies. Most people skip it. It's the most important chapter in the entire book. Sun Tzu categorizes 5 types of spies: local spies, internal spies, converted spies, doomed spies, and living spies. Doomed spies. Let that sink in. These are agents you deliberately send with false information, knowing they will be captured and killed. So the enemy believes the lie. You sacrifice your own people to plant a deception. This is not a military textbook. This is a manual for psychological warfare. And here's the part that connects it to the modern world. Every intelligence agency, CIA, MI6, Mossad, FSB, still uses Sun Tzu's 5-spy framework. The terminology has changed. The principles haven't. When you hear about double agents or disinformation campaigns, you're hearing Sun Tzu, 2,500 years later. Now, so far, I've shown you the dark side of this book. But the next chapter contains something even more unsettling, because it applies directly to your life. Part 4. The Dark Wisdom of 13 Chapters. Let me walk you through the structure of this book, because it's not organized the way you think. The Art of War has 13 chapters. Each one is a layer of strategy, building on the last. Together, they form a complete system for domination, not just on the battlefield, but in any competitive environment. Chapter 1. Laying plans. Before any action, calculate. Sun Tzu identifies 5 fundamental factors: the way, heaven, earth, the commander, and method. If you can assess all 5 correctly, you already know who will win. Chapter 2. Waging war. War is expensive. Every day of conflict drains resources. Sun Tzu's lesson: if you must fight, fight fast. No country has ever benefited from a prolonged war. Chapter 3. Attack by stratagem. This is where subdue without fighting lives. The hierarchy is clear. The best strategy is to attack the enemy's plans. The next best is to attack their alliances. The worst option is to attack their cities. Think about that. In Sun Tzu's mind, physical combat is the last resort, and it means you've already failed at strategy. Chapter 4. Tactical dispositions. The good fighter puts himself beyond the possibility of defeat, and then waits for an opportunity to defeat the enemy. Defense. First. Always. Chapter 5. Energy. This isn't about physical energy. It's about momentum, the force that turns a small advantage into an unstoppable wave. Sun Tzu compares it to water rushing downhill, carrying boulders. Chapter 6. Weak points and strong. Here's the principle that changed modern warfare. Attack where the enemy is weakest, avoid where they are strongest. It sounds obvious, yet armies ignore it century after century. Chapter 7. Maneuvering. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. This is Sun Tzu's poetry, beautiful and terrifying. Chapter 8. Variation in tactics. No plan survives contact with reality. Adapt or die. Chapter 9. The Army on the March. How to read terrain, weather, and, most importantly, your enemy's behavior. Sun Tzu says, "If birds suddenly rise in flight, an ambush is coming. If animals flee, an attack is near." Chapter 10. Terrain. 6 types of ground, each requiring a different strategy. This chapter is pure tactical genius. Chapter 11. The 9 situations. The darkest chapter. Sun Tzu describes death ground, a situation where you have no escape, no retreat. And his advice? Put your army on death ground deliberately, because when soldiers know they will die if they fail, they fight with everything they have. This principle, burn the boats, has been used by every great commander from Hernan Cortez to Julius Caesar. Chapter 12. The attack by fire. Destruction as strategy. Chapter 13. The use of spies. As I said, the chapter most people skip, and the one that matters most. Information is the ultimate weapon. 13 chapters. Written 2,500 years ago. Still used by every military, every corporation, every government on Earth. But the real question is, why does this book work on you? Part 5. The Art of War Today. Why is it still relevant? Here's where the art of war becomes personal. Because this book isn't really about generals and armies anymore. It's about any situation where 2 people, or 2 groups, compete for something. In business, Jeff Bezos built Amazon using Sun Tzu's Chapter 6 principle, attack where your enemy is weakest. When Barnes & Noble dominated physical bookstores, Bezos didn't compete on their turf. He created a new battlefield, the Internet, where they couldn't follow fast enough. That's Chapter 6. Appear at points which the enemy must hasten to defend. March swiftly to places where you are not expected. Amazon didn't outfight Barnes & Noble. It outmaneuvered them. The war was over before Barnes & Noble knew it had started. In technology, Steve Jobs was a devoted student of Sun Tzu. The iPhone launch in 2007 was pure art of war. Chapter 7. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night. Apple's secrecy wasn't paranoia. It was strategy. By the time Nokia and BlackBerry understood what the iPhone was, the market had already shifted beneath their feet. In geopolitics, the Cold War was fought almost entirely through Sun Tzu's framework. Both the US and the Soviet Union read The Art of War, and both sides used Chapter 13, Spies and Intelligence, as their primary weapon. No nuclear bomb was ever dropped. The war was fought through information, alliances, proxy conflicts, and psychological pressure, exactly as Sun Tzu prescribed 2,500 years earlier. And even in your daily life, every negotiation you enter, every conflict at work, every relationship where power dynamics exist, Sun Tzu's principles are at play, whether you know it or not. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. That colleague who got the promotion over you, they didn't work harder. They positioned themselves better. They understood the terrain. They knew the decision-makers. That's not office politics. That's Chapter 10. Part 6. The dark lesson of the book. Now, I want to show you something that most summaries of this book completely miss. The Art of War has a hidden lesson, one that runs through all 13 chapters but is never stated directly. It's this: the greatest victory is the one your enemy doesn't even realize they've lost. Read that again. Sun Tzu doesn't want you to defeat your enemy in a glorious battle. He wants you to win so quietly, so completely, that your enemy looks around one day and realizes it's over. And it has been for a long time. This is the most psychologically disturbing idea in the entire book, because it means the best strategists in history, the ones who truly mastered Sun Tzu, are the ones you've never heard of. The wars you know about, those are the wars where strategy failed. The truly successful wars, they never became wars at all. Let me give you the most chilling example. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea. There was no invasion in the traditional sense, no tanks rolling across borders under fire, no aerial bombardment. Instead, unmarked soldiers appeared in key positions. Communication systems were disrupted. Local politicians were persuaded. By the time the world realized what was happening, Crimea was already Russian territory. Military analysts called it hybrid warfare. Sun Tzu would have called it Chapter 3. The highest form of strategy is to attack the enemy's plans. Russia didn't attack Ukraine's army. It attacked Ukraine's ability to respond. The war was over before it started. Whether you agree with the politics or not, the strategy was pure Sun Tzu. 2,500 years old, still working. Part 7. Final word. The book's message for you. So what does a 2,500-year-old military text mean for you? Here's my honest answer. The Art of War is not a book you read. It's a book you absorb. Every time you reread a chapter, you see something you missed before, because your own life experience has changed. At its core, this book teaches 3 things. 1. Know yourself with brutal honesty. Your weaknesses, your blind spots, your ego. Sun Tzu says the general who knows himself is already halfway to victory. Most people never do this work. 2. Understand that every conflict, in war, in business, in relationships, is won or lost before it begins. The preparation, the positioning, the intelligence, that's where victory lives, not in the heat of the moment. 3. The greatest power is the power that's never seen. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. The person who controls the room is the one you didn't notice. 2,500 years ago, a man, real or imagined, sat down and wrote 13 chapters that would echo through every century that followed. Generals used his words to conquer empires. CEOs used his words to build monopolies. Intelligence agencies used his words to topple governments. And the terrifying truth is, the principles haven't changed, not a single one. Because human nature hasn't changed. We are still the same creatures Sun Tzu wrote about, driven by fear, ambition, and the desire for power. The only question is, will you be the one who understands the game, or the one who doesn't even know it's being played? If this analysis made you think differently about the art of war, there's a full audiobook summary on this channel. 1 hour, every chapter, every principle. Dark and unfiltered. The link is on your screen right now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you should. Because next week we're opening another book that changed the world. One that's even more dangerous. Until then, remember Sun Tzu's first lesson. All warfare is based on deception. Even this video,